Oh, it's alive.
All right.
For one last time
How
on the
about that?
regular season.
God.
For the 2021 football season's over for Nebraska. How about that?
I have to come to terms with that tonight. I like covering football.
Do you regard it with a degree of sadness?
I do regard it with a degree of sadness. Although today was, I would think for Nebraska football fans, there'll be a lot of Nebraska football fans who are just glad this season's over.
Yeah, I heard a little bit of that from fans over the course of the afternoon.
3-9. I didn't put. I hope you put this in your story because I didn't put it in my column.
Let's see.
Worst record by percentage since 57.
It is.
Okay.
It's in my story. Yes.
Okay, good.
Welcome in everybody. Parker, Sipple. We'll give you a minute to get in here. Put your questions, obviously, in the comments section. Sipple, let's just start it with what you thought. I mean, at one point this afternoon, Nebraska, with 3 wins, was leading Iowa, who came in with 9 wins, 21-6.
Yeah,
looked like they were in full control of the game.
Right, and then the colossal breakdown occurred.
Yeah,
and it was a special teams breakdown. 3 plays into the fourth quarter, Henry Marchese, I don't know how you pronounce his name.
That sounds right.
Stormed off the right edge and blocked William Pristup's punt. Kyler Fisher returned it for a touchdown. It's 21-9, and now it's starting to feel a little too predictable.
Yeah,
what's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Frost looked at his players, turned on the sideline, looked at his players, and liked what he saw in their eyes. Except he expressed to us also but you never know,
right? With
the way things have gone this season. And I'd say shortly after that, Smothers fumbled.
Yeah, they hit a big play on the first play of the next drive out across midfield to Austin Allen, and then, fumbled in exchange.
And then you really start to feel this inevitability.
Yeah.
Not only because of this season, but because of this series. Iowa it's a little too predictable is what I wrote.
Yeah.
This felt a little too predictable.
Oh, when that punt got blocked, I mean, it was like, oh, I know how this is going to end.
Exactly.
Okay, here's what's amazing though, Simple. And we can talk about this. Maybe you wrote about this in your column. It struck me that it's easy to look back, and Frost says this a lot after games, that, okay, of course, like some people will say no matter what happens, they don't regret making a call. Frost will say, like, yeah, of course, if I knew what was going to happen, I'd do it differently.
Right.
But I found it, so given that context, I still found it interesting that after the game, he said that of the block play, he said that was the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were winning by 5 points after that. It was 21-16.
Oh, geez. I wish I would have wrote that. That's a good point.
He said that was the game. Oh, yeah, that was the game. They were winning after that.
Okay, now I guess we have to parse that a little bit more. Maybe he meant
it was the turning point.
Yeah, or as you sum up the final analysis, that was the game.
It was a
I don't know if he meant literally. It's possible he didn't mean that literally at that moment that was the game.
Right, yeah. But
I get what you're saying.
It felt like that.
Yeah. It did.
It's amazing.
Yeah, well, I think we caught ourselves, but I get what you're saying completely.
Kenneth says, I don't know if I want to be here. Matt,
well, that makes 3 of us.
So. Matt says, full-time special teams coordinator.
Here's what I didn't write this, but this is what I'll say. He almost has to do it for PR reasons now, because the fan base will be in an uproar if he doesn't.
Isn't
that right?
I thought he sounded like he was, if nothing else, like resigned to that fact after the game. I mean, he just was. I mean, how could you not? It's almost to this point. It's almost how could you not? I mean,
it's logical.
The last 2 games of the season, a 7-point loss to Wisconsin that included a kick return touchdown, and a 7-point loss to Iowa that included a blocked punt for a touchdown.
Yeah. Oh my God! Those are just colossal breakdowns.
Yeah, and they're not the only ones. I mean, take Michigan State, Wisconsin, and Iowa. There's 3 games. Literally, the game swung on just horrendous special teams plays, and that's to say nothing of missing 2 field goals and having a extra point run back for 2 points against Oklahoma.
And the truth is, these special teams issues have been happening throughout his tenure.
Yeah, right. Yes.
I mean,
Jake Moody from Michigan, Noah Ruggles from Ohio State, Caleb Shudak today. I mean, it can be done.
it just adds insult when a guy like Shudak comes in and just hits bombs into the wind, hits long field goals. I mean, makes it look kind of easy.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Nebraska hits half of its field goals and misses 4 extra points during the season.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like, okay, yeah, you're right. This is if he doesn't hire us, but I mean, I don't even know if that works. I mean, what people have to understand is Mike Riley had a full-time special teams coach in Bruce Reed, and it exactly wasn't a flawless enterprise.
What ends up happening is if you fail enough, people will just want change to anything.
Yeah.
Like I had for the first time in a long time, I had people this week saying like, well, maybe they shouldn't practice in the morning.
Yeah.
It's like, well, they
Mm-hmm.
begged for morning practice for a lot, but it hasn't worked. So now, so yeah, change for the sake of change. But I do think it's something that I think he'll hire one. That's just a guess though.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly happened on the last play interception from Smothers? Yeah, that's a good question, James.
You got it.
Ross was asked about it after the game. Levi Falk had an option route, so he had to, based on what the defense gave him, he had the option of running the deep post or breaking off his route and going back toward the sideline. He broke off his route, which Frost intimated after the game was the right decision because what Frost said was wrong throw at the wrong time.
Yeah.
It's a staple concept. They run it all the time. Frost said they've repped it thousands of times in practice, and safety over the top, and the guy was playing Falk's inside. So I thought I thought live it looked like Falk did the right thing, and that's basically what Frost said after the game. Just wrong throw at the wrong moment. So is Adrian coming back next year? Jared, yeah, good question.
Don't know. We just don't know. I mean, it's really hard to say.
Yeah, there was some. You don't want to read too much into it, but like, man, Damian Daniels really emotional. Coming out the tunnel. He was part of the senior day festivities. He could come back. There were some guys that were talking about him in the past tense after the game. He was crying before the game. He wasn't in uniform like that. It looked like a goodbye. We'll see what decision he makes. Adrian was a tougher read. He got a big ovation. He took the photo with Frost. He did the senior day thing, but we'll see. I don't think it'll be real long before we know one way or the other. Hello, guys from Rapid City. Mark, how you doing? Is Nebraska, let's see. What is it, a collapse, or was there always a thought Iowa would come back inside the stadium? Henry asks.
Well, I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
I think that Iowa presses Nebraska. It blocks that punt, takes it in, and now the pressure is squarely on Nebraska, and Nebraska starts, like Frost said, you just wonder what the kids are thinking. What, one thing goes wrong, what else could go wrong? Iowa knows that.
Yeah, 100%.
Iowa, I'm sure maybe, I'm not sure, but it's very possible part of the conversation this week with Iowa was just press them. Just keep pressing them. Don't break down.
Yep.
It happens all the time. It happens. It's happened all the time in our series.
Right.
Look at their season. Just keep pressing. Something good will happen and they'll break down.
Yeah, they'll make a mistake. Yeah. Tim says, when do you think we'll see the hire of an offensive coordinator? Good question.
We don't. I wish God we knew that.
On the clock, right? From right now going forward. A lot of team seasons in college football end tomorrow. Mm-hmm. There'll be a lot of coaching movement after that. Related question from Dave, why was Frost so short post-game when asked about the coaches? Well, Dave, that was mostly because if he would have entertained that question, I know this because I would have asked him a bunch of offseason related questions. It would have spiraled into a full postseason debrief or setup, and he just wanted to. He was making it clear that he was going to talk about the game and deal with that stuff. He said, "I'll talk about hiring coaches later." That's what he said.
He made the right. That's the absolutely right way to handle that in the post game. After the game, you don't need to address that stuff right after the game.
Husker here in San Antonio, Nick says, hard to believe UTSA knows how to win over Nebraska. Well, yeah. Yeah, we talked about James. We talked about why Falk stopped running his route. Did it seem like the play calling went into panic mode? Oh, James, here's the thing. I mean, Nebraska only ran for 35 yards in the second half. They had 111 in the first half. And Frost said, yeah, I'll watch it again. They pick up on stuff that the average person watching would not. He said Iowa was moving its linebackers almost entirely out of the box to handle the option stuff, because that's really what worked for Nebraska in the first half, and then on that 94-yard touchdown drive in the third quarter. And he said, if you're going to move your linebackers out to the perimeter, you just got to be able to run up the middle
between the tackles.
Yeah.
And Nebraska was not having a lot of success there.
Yeah. In Nebraska's last 5 offensive possessions, 3 with the lead, 1 tied, 1 trailing by 7, they ran 10 times for 18 yards.
That's not getting it done.
Nope. Not getting it done. If Frost doesn't hire a dedicated special teams coordinator, he should be fired after the first loss due to special teams. Well, Kent, that's not at all how contracts work, but I mean, I understand the sentiment.
Did Betts only play 1 play?
No.
Okay.
No, he was out there more than that, a lot more than that, I think. Agreed. Glad the season is over. Don't have to go through a glass cage of emotion next Saturday, Ron. Yeah, well, you are notorious for that, Ron Burgundy. So can we get over 2 a.m. being bad now? I know Smothers' first game, but our O-line takes almost all the heat here. Here's one simple. How did you think Smothers played? Like, what did you think about that picture?
I thought it looked good for most of the game, save for 2 critical errors, 3 critical errors, I guess. Fumble. Well, 2 fumbles and a pick.
Yeah.
A fumble, the safety, and the pick.
Oh, yeah. The safety, Frost said they blew a protection on the safety. Again, just sort of relaying what the coach said.
No. That's a good point.
But there was he said that one of the sneaky critical plays of the game was either the last play of the third quarter or the first play of the fourth, where they put the ball on the ground and he got it back, but Smothers lost 1 on first down. Well, it looked like it had at least a few yards, maybe a big play. Behind the sticks, they go 3 and out. That was the punt that got blocked.
Yeah.
Do you guys think they can really make any sort of improvement in 1 year to save Frost's job, James asks?
Well, this is what I've been saying. I think this is a long shot. It feels like a long shot. I mean, they have to hire an offensive coordinator. Remember, in college football, there's a time limit. There's a 20-hour rule. You don't have all the time in the world to get all this done. You have to get it done quickly, and not only do you have to get it done quickly, you have to make it work quickly. And I can remember back to when Bob Diaco was hired as the defensive coordinator. We had these conversations with the coaches about how difficult it was because Diaco spoke a different language. His defense had different terminology. There were different techniques. People forget that. There's different techniques that the kids have to learn quickly.
Yeah.
And it all has to go bam, bam, bam. And there's only 19 practices in the spring. Okay. You got to think about
15,
this.
Yeah.
15 practices in the spring. And then here's what happens. August hits. It's preseason camp. You got about 2 weeks to go. Okay. Before you got to start getting ready for the opponent.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, you're getting on a plane to go to Ireland.
Right. And it has to happen like that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay. You don't have a grace period.
No.
I mean, Trev Albert said, no, this doesn't mean 3 or 4 more years.
Right.
This means it's got to happen.
Yeah.
It's a long shot.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Frost may be able to pull it off, but I mean, it's a long shot.
Keegan Johnson was held in check partly because Quentin Newsom had a great game. Yeah, Quentin Newsom played well. They tested him right away. He broke up a pass. I think it's literally Iowa's first play. And yeah, I think Keegan had one catch.
One catch, yeah.
He's going to be a really good player, though, man. I mean, that is a talented young dude from Bellevue West. I feel bad for the seniors. Been a tough tenure. What OC can untangle this, Alan? That is the question that Scott Frost is trying to answer. Paul Christ faced a catastrophe in October. Rock says he figured it out and made the team better. Frost didn't. Same game as week 1 at Illinois. Yeah, you know what? There are a lot of similarities. He still hedges on special teams coach. Yeah, Wisconsin was 1-3. Now they've won 7 in a row.
Yeah,
and Iowa, it was funny. Ferentz got asked after the game if he was cheering for Minnesota tomorrow, and he's like, I didn't say that. But he is.
Yeah.
And they're definitely everyone at Iowa's hoping for Minnesota because that would get them a share of the division title. Let's see. How do you sell this team to new recruits and transfers? How worried are you they're going to lose some of the defensive staff? Well, Nick, I mean, yeah, coaching attrition is always possible. I mean, there's so many jobs out there right now with the way this coaching carousel already is and the way it's going to get. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to keep the whole defensive staff together.
Sure it is. I mean, well, listen. There's a reality to this conversation, and the reality is they're 3-9.
Yeah.
Okay, and the reality is Frost's contract is structured next year, so it's pretty clear that the AD expects immediate results. Okay, that's all has to be in everybody's mind. Players, assistant coaches, they're 3-9. Okay,
yeah.
You're not in a good situation here. Okay. Frost does a pretty good job of selling that it's a good situation, but it's hard to really completely buy into that. Right.
The flip side of that conversation is if you were a defensive coach and you were eyeing a different situation, you've seen this year, head coaches get fired after 2 games. Mm-hmm. Head coaches get fired after 4 games. Head coaches get fired after winning seasons. Mm-hmm. So what Trev Albert said in sort of addressing the same question, Nick, is like no college football coach probably feels like very few, save it or whatever. But like most college coaches do not feel a great degree of job security wherever they are. Sort of the nature of it.
Yeah, that's very fair.
And in terms of how you sell a team to recruits and transfers, I mean, transfers especially, a lot of it's playing time. You know, part of the reason they got Samori Toure was because they knew Wandale was leaving and they needed somebody to play that spot. And they told him, hey, look, you can be a featured player here. And he had 900 yards receiving this year. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely, I mean, that part of it is there. Defense hasn't looked the same since Jodo stopped playing. That, Kenneth. Yeah, I mean, part of that's just the attrition of a long season. Part of it, Frost said today, I mean, it's true. Part of it's because Wisconsin and Iowa are really good running the ball. But
Daniel's out.
Yeah.
JoJo out. Deontay Williams out.
Yep.
Phildarius Payne out.
Yep.
You got Caleb Tanner back last week, who was hurt early against Wisconsin.
Most of the game against Wisconsin.
Yeah, and Tanner was fabulous today. Yeah. Caleb Tanner is a bright spot. And there's bright spots for sure 100%. On this team. There's several of them. But number 2 on defense is definitely one. I mean, he is all out to win. It's clear.
Yeah.
I mean, he makes plays that are really hard to make.
He's a guy that they're going to build around next year. I mean, assuming you never know with guys, assuming he's back and all that, like, yeah, he's a guy who really can be a breakout player in 2022. Nebraska ended the season giving up more than 4 yards a carry, 4.2 per carry on the year, because Iowa and Wisconsin combined to average 6.5.
Yeah, they were down to 3.7.
Yep.
4.2 is not. I mean, that's not winning football.
No. Matt says he'll miss these post-game chats. That's nice, Matt. You missed the vulgarity from this guy.
Yeah, I just had a vulgarity.
You did. Yeah, it's okay. The season's over. Your bosses certainly aren't going to watch this.
I'll tone it down. I'll tone it down, bosses.
Gifford with the same receiver hands as his brother, Ron Burgundy, says, yeah, Luca tweeted about that during the game.
Well, that would if that's the same, he'll end up in the NFL. That's all right.
Yeah. Glad this dumpster fire is over, Andrew. Yeah. Well,
yeah, there's that sentiment out there. I mean, it's hard for us because we love covering this stuff. And today was, I mean, I said on a tweet, this is thoroughly entertaining, and took some heat for it and actually deleted it. Well, I kind of wimped out, but I was thoroughly entertained.
The last 2 weeks, right? The games against Wisconsin and Iowa were great.
They're interesting.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. Just from a objective, football writer's perspective, it was interesting. It's not hard to write about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard, I know, to read about for people who are invested, and it's really maddening, but it's sort of fascinating what's going 100%. On here.
Yeah, it is. Kevin asks, Bill Bush for special teams coordinator?
I just don't think I mean, I think you could okay, let me say this. It would seem logical to me to do that.
Yeah.
Not only because of Bush's experience coaching Alex Smith to Utah and Joe Burrow to LSU. But I mean, that's just all people have to do is go back and look at his Nebraska tenure. and he was probably their best recruiter. I mean, Prince Amakamara. There's a long line of guys. The Arizona guys were mostly his guys, and he is a fabulous recruiter. He was involved in the special teams coaching this year, so you have to factor that in. But a behind the scenes role, and not on the field, so very limited in what he could do. Oh, I think it would make too much sense. I mean, I don't know I just don't think he would have to even look outside your own walls. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he doesn't want
to. I think this team believes they're one play away when they're actually 100 plays away. So when adversity strikes, they don't know how to respond.
Yeah, I wonder about that play away thing too.
Yeah.
I mean, when it's happening over and over, I think Dirk asked a pretty good question along those lines. Kind of, you sell this psychology mindset that we're close. But it's almost like, well, if it keeps happening over and over, are you really close?
Yeah, right.
Or is it just a flaw? Is it a coaching defect at that point? The great debate is just, are all these close losses just a result of a coaching defect?
Right.
Or is Nebraska really
obviously every year, because this is the first time in college football history that it's happened. 0-8 in one-score games in a single season.
I think 5 of those are against ranked teams.
5 of them are against ranked teams, but they've been bad. The record wasn't that bad, but it was very poor in one-score games coming into this year.
Yeah,
5-12, I think, at the beginning of the year. Now it's 5-20.
Oh boy.
What would Martinez's legacy be like if he ever had a good offensive line? Yeah, Nick.
Way different.
Question we may never know the answer.
Way different.
Couple more. How come Yant disappeared? James, yeah, so he was suspended last week, basically. He was on the trip, but he was suspended for disciplinary reasons. Give your over-under or percentage, Kent says, that Frost will get it turned around and back in 2023. He sets it at 20%.
20 is not a bad number. I keep saying long shot. I might go to 30. And if I were Frost, I'd take 30 right now. At what's he, 15-29?
Yeah, right.
Okay, Frost is 15-29, and he's 10-25 in the Big Ten. He can't be offended if people say, I give him a 30% chance to turn it around. There's no way you can be offended.
6-17 against the Big Ten West.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Frost and I know my numbers and I hear people say, I'll give him a 30% chance.
Yeah.
I say, I'll take that. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be realistic.
Oh, I know. 100%. Yeah. Sooner or later, the law of averages will catch up and they'll actually win one of these games. Lauren, you'd think, not this year. If it didn't happen today, it wasn't going to happen at all. Option game was working in the first half and then Bill Carton in the second half. Why is that? Joseph Frost said after the game that that Iowa changed the way it was playing its linebackers, and they're taking away that stuff on the perimeter. They challenged Nebraska to run it right at them between the tackles. Nebraska couldn't do it. Javon, poor coaching once again. Why do we not stick with the plays at work? Yeah, that sort of gets to the last question, which we talked about. Let's see
they
here.
Are outplayed. I thought Nebraska. Tell me if you. I thought Nebraska outplayed Iowa for the most of 3 quarters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, it was 21-6. I thought
quarter
there was one point we were talking in the third quarter, and we said, like, it just looks like Nebraska's better than Iowa.
Yeah. Then it changed quick.
Yeah. One play. Yeah. Scott, they did. For next year. Oh, yeah, let's do this one.
Catherine.
Let's end it on this one, Sipple. Catherine says, I've appreciated this team maybe more than some of our championships teams. I respect the grit, determination, and loyalty to one another.
Okay. Now, I think that is very – I mean, it's definitely true. I have said many times I'm impressed how this team does stick together. But the bottom line is – now, I thought this game was important for the program because it was a chance to show – that they could close the deal. And they had a great chance to do it today, and they didn't do it. So now you can't ignore that. I mean, you can't just say, oh, they're close. This game doesn't matter. They're still it matters.
You know what's funny about that?
It has to matter.
This is why I wrote the game story. I thought coming in, I wasn't really sure if this game mattered, but it wasn't for that reason. It was because of all the other stuff going on.
Yeah.
They're trying to find coaches.
Yeah.
Adrian's out. It's like the offseason's already here, basically, but they're just sort of playing one more game today. But then when it started, it didn't feel like it didn't matter.
No.
It felt like a rivalry game.
It did. The stadium was jacked
Yeah,
up.
it felt like a rivalry game. So then to like take this sort of waypoint moment where there's all this change coming, some of it's already happened, there's more coming, all that. And then it was just a fist fight.
Yeah, it was.
And then to lose that, it's like, man.
And I'll tell you, there's lessons to be learned in this stuff. That's what you got to keep reminding yourself. Think about today. You had a 3-8 team, okay, playing out the string, but it felt huge.
Yeah.
It felt big. I mean, it really did. The place was packed. It was loud, and Catherine, those people walking out were pissed.
Yeah, they were.
Me and Parker were amongst the crowd. And that was not a happy crowd. It wasn't a crowd that was like this. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Some of that, and I feel that way to a point. But if you walked among those fans were pissed.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. Well, 3-9. I mean, like you say,
sick of losing to Iowa.
Yeah, 7 in a row. 15 straight combined losses between Iowa and Wisconsin after going 0-2 in the past 6 days here. We're going to wrap it there. Thank you for the support all year, everybody. We'll do this again maybe next week. We'll jump on as off-season developments start to come for sure on signing day or around signing day. But we'll try to get a couple of these in end of the month here and into December. It's going to be a super busy off-season. So keep it tuned to journalstar.com/Huskers, huskerextra.com for Sipple and Parker. Thanks for watching.